Welcome to Lesson 9, Advanced Use of the Vector Tools. In this lesson, I'm going to show you how you can take advantage of these vector tools, which are available down in the section above the bottom of your Tools panel. You've got the pen, you have type, you have the path selection, and a shape tool. And in fact, there are additional shapes and other tools that are included if you click and hold down on these tools as well. So let's start with the shape tool. I'm just going to click and drag about halfway through across my image. If I don't like the color of this particular shape, you'll notice the Properties panel pops up instantly. And in here, I can select a color. I'm going to stay with white. If you don't have white, make sure you choose it now. You could also select a stroke. In this case, we're going to leave the stroke set at none, which is that red slash. Now, why would you use a vector shape in Photoshop? The reason why is because it's scalable. And because no matter what size you're going to use this image at, that shape will always remain clean and crisp as long as it maintains itself as a vector shape. I also, in this particular shape, want to include a mask. So you'll notice that I can click on the mask button up at the top of Properties, and I can click Add a Mask. In here, I can take the gradient tool and I'll just click and drag from the right to the left while I'm holding the Shift key down to keep it perfectly straight to add a little bit of a fade into that selection. So not only do I have a vector shape, but I also can apply effects that are pretty unique to Photoshop as far as masking. If you didn't do this correctly the first time, you can pull this out as many times as you want. In fact, I'll just go ahead and start back at the beginning, Shift click to do an even better fade. Let's put some text in. I'm taking the type tool, and notice I'm not clicking on the shape because that will put the text on that path or in that path. I'm clicking outside the path where I see this dotted square border and clicking and dragging. I'm setting my text for about 90 points, and I'm starting to type in capital letters. So I'll put my caps lock key down, trade, return, snow, return, for, return, sand. Now I want to adjust the leading here a little bit, so I'm pressing a Control or Command A, and I'm going up to this little dialog box up in the type options, and I'm changing that leading to about a 65. If you want to see without this preview, this reversal of your text, you can press Control or Command H and then select Hide Extras. This is still selected, but I'm not seeing the selection anymore, so I can focus on the text a little better. Another great trick is that if you have your text selected, which I do, you just can't see it, you can hold down your Alt or Option key and press the arrow out or in. And what that does is that changes the tracking or the space between your letters. So if you're trying to fit this a little better or you want to create a special effect, you can do that as well. I'm good with this. This is vector text, but what if I want to do some additional special effects to this and I want it to stay vector and I want it to be able to travel from my system to other systems and maybe somebody else doesn't have the same font? I'm just going to click the check mark to confirm my text, go up to type, and you'll notice that I can choose a couple things here. I can say create this as a work path or convert to shape. I'm going to say convert this to a shape, and now I have my text as vector. I'm also going to take this shape, and you'll notice that if I double click on that layer, I can even go out and sample a color. So I'll sample the blue color and click OK to apply that color to my text as well. I'm also going to take this layer and change the blending mode to color burn, and maybe even come down here and put a stroke on here. I'll take it, I'll apply a center stroke, and I'll change the color to a white. While I'm in here, I'm also going to click on Drop Shadow. I'm going to change the drop shadow to a much larger amount, maybe even a 65 or so. Notice that Layer Knocks Out Drop Shadow prevents the drop shadow from showing up in between the letters, but I can change that if I like. That's not really the effect I wanted, So I'm going to check that back on. I'm also going to click up in the blending options. And you'll notice that when you're in the blending options, you can choose the fill opacity. And by pulling the fill down to none, you're left with only these effects, and you're not actually seeing the color at all for that particular layer. I'm good with this right now. I'm going to go ahead and click OK. And now I'm going to put in some artwork from another application. So I'm selecting File, Place, and I'm going out to my lesson files. And I'm going to go into my Lesson 9 files and open up a logo. Now when I place a file, I can click OK. The image is placed, and I can position it down in the lower right-hand corner. And when I'm ready, I can say, confirm that. Now, this has been placed automatically as a smart object. And you can see this by looking at the icon in the lower right-hand corner. That means the vector capabilities of this Illustrator file that I placed are being maintained. You can double-click down in the lower right-hand corner and open up that original vector image in Adobe Illustrator and make any changes that you like. So I'm going to select that top snowbird and maybe slide it down to the left. I am also going to take the artboard. So I'm clicking on the artboard tool and making sure that it recognizes that change. And then I'm going to save the file. And when I save the file and then close it, so I just did File Save, File Close, you'll see that when I go back to Photoshop, it's actually been updated, but still maintaining its vector capabilities. One more thing I want to show you. There are a bunch of shapes in here, custom shapes. So you can select from existing ones here or click on the gear and add additional ones. If I click Append, it keeps all of those existing ones and then adds additional ones. If you want to apply a shape, you can select it and click and drag it out into your image area. Or you can even go to an application like Adobe Illustrator, open up one of your files. So I'll open up the feet done in Adobe Illustrator. I can copy that graphic, go back into Photoshop, and then choose to paste. When I paste, I can select that I want to put this down as a shape layer. Once I've done that, I have the capability of going under Edit and defining this as a custom shape. Feet. And now you'll notice when I come up to the shape menu that I have an additional shape that I can select from. I'll go ahead and get rid of these because every time you put one of those shapes down, you're actually creating a new shape layer. I'm going to take my Move tool and reposition this shape over in this section. Press Control or Command T, shrink it down a bit. Commit that and double click on the shape and change the color to any color I want, either using the color picker or of course sampling a color. So in this video, you discovered how you can take advantage of some of the vector tools available in Photoshop Creative Cloud.